Welcome to the August 10th, 2021 regular meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. As soon as we get the volume on the computer ironed out, can we do closed session items, please? Or are we reporting out from last meeting? Sorry.
I have a report out for last meeting.
Let's do that.
Okay. The report out for closed session of July 27th. Item number 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with County Designated Labor Negotiator Judy Hawkins regarding the following employee organizations: Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 1021, Deputy Sheriff's Association, DSA. There was no reportable action taken. Item number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957A, threat to public services or facilities, consultation with Under Sheriff Jim Macedo, Calaveras County Sheriff's Office. There was no reportable action taken. Closed session items on today's agenda. Item number 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with County Designated Labor Negotiator Judy Hawkins regarding the following employee organizations: Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 1021. Item number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 case.
Public comment.
There is no public comment at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll adjourn into closed session. Welcome back to the Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Ms. Glanville, will you please report out on closed session? Again.
Item number 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with County Designated Labor Negotiator Judy Hawkins regarding the following employee organization: Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 1021. There was no reportable action taken. Item number 2, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 case. There was no reportable action taken.
Thank you. Will everyone please stand and join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Staff announcements. This is time for county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public. I have 2 on the list here, Ms. Medina and Ms. Allen. Ms. Medina, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you, Corey, for letting me go first. Good morning, Chair Stopper, respective board members, clerk of the board, and our Calaveras community. Lisa Medina, Environmental Management Agency. Today I have 2 announcements. The first being that, as always, we are truly grateful and fortunate to have our animal service volunteers. In July, our volunteers gave over 320 hours of their precious time to our animals and also to our animal services staff. If you are interested in volunteering, please visit our Animal Service Department webpage and click on the volunteer icon, or you can call us at 209-754-6509. You can even call me at 209-754-6744, and I'll chat with you a little bit more about it. We had several adoptions in July. Our adult dogs that were adopted included Hattie and Hulk, and our puppies, Huey, Dewey, Arlo, Violet, and Remy. The second announcement I have is for our annual Calaveras County Residential Hazardous Waste Collection event, which is going to take place September 11th and September 12th. Our integrated waste management staff and environmental staff will be on task for that event. The first event on September 11th will take place from 9 to 1 here at the San Andreas Government Center, located at 891 Mountain Ranch Road. We also have, coincidentally, an event that will also be taking place at the Arnold County Road Yard at 1191 Linebaugh Road from 9 to 11 that same day. On Sunday, September 12th, from 9 to 1, we will have the event take place at the West Point Caltrans Yard, located at 22412 Highway 26. Now, what you need to have and be reminded of for this event is you have to have your ID available at the events, and that these events are only open to residents of Calaveras County and also Alpine County with the proper identification. Proof of residency will be required, either with a current driver's license showing a Calaveras or Alpine County address, or a copy of your current tax bill which shows a proper related solid waste fees. Some of the acceptable hazardous waste items include paints, stains, solvents, motor oil, antifreeze, pesticides and herbicides, household chemicals, lawn and pool chemicals, household batteries, fluorescent bulbs, over-the-counter medications, camp stove propane tanks, needles and syringes. Now, those needles and syringes must be in a sharps container or other approved rigid plastic container. Some of the items that will not be allowed and are prohibited and restricted include appliances, electronics, tires, and I do have something for our Calaveras residents for our tires as well, and I will be announcing that at a later meeting. Explosives, ammunitions, radioactive materials, and of course biological waste. So some of the things that we need to be reminded of are you can only bring in a maximum of 15 gallons of, say for example, the waste oil and or any of the paints or solvents. They can be transported in 5-gallon containers with a maximum of up to 15 gallons. Also 5 gallons per container, as I just stated, and or 125 pounds of solid waste materials. You need to place all the chemicals in sealed containers and place them in the bed or truck bed and pack them to prevent spills. If you have any questions, please call us at Environmental Health, 209-754-6399, or you can call our Calaveras County Integrated Waste Management Team at 209-754-6403. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Ms. Allen.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Corey Allen, Health and Human Services Agency Director. I'm here today with our local health officer, Dr. Renee Ramirez, and I'm also here with our Public Health Deputy Director, Colleen. Today we are urging our community, our residents, staff, public figures to please understand that the COVID-19 pandemic is not behind us. We are again hitting a surge. Staff are impacted, but really I want to hear today from Dr. Ramirez, who really can give you some compelling information as to why it's so critical that we continue to mask, socially distance, wash hands, and certainly get the vaccine. Dr. Ramirez?
Good morning. Well, quite a lot has changed since I last spoke to the board in Calaveras County, and unfortunately, our numbers are surging quite a bit. Over the last month, we've experienced movement across the old tier system. Back in the end of June, we might have been the yellow tier system by the old nomenclature, and today I'm sad to report that we have been catapulted into the purple tier system. Just to give you a rough idea of some numbers, back in late June, we were averaging about 7 cases of COVID per 14 days. And as of the EPI report I received yesterday, we are now at 150 cases that have been reported over the last 2 weeks. And unfortunately, we have 3 hospital inpatients with COVID now in the hospital. Keep in mind, there's only 25 licensed beds at Mark Twain Medical Center. So that tells me that 12% of our inpatients are related to COVID. Furthermore, as of Sunday, 18 out of the 45 encounters that presented to the emergency department at Mark Twain Medical Center were for COVID-related complaints. That's almost half of all ED encounters that presented on Sunday were because of COVID-related complaints. If this does not alarm you, I don't know what will. These numbers are very, very sad. We've had a number of deaths in Calaveras County, and our numbers just continue to be increasing at a daily rate. I am asking the Board of Supervisors, all of Calaveras County, its citizens, private sector, religious sector, to please help us. Please spread the word, the importance of masking and the importance of receiving the vaccine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. Ms. Allen,
Yes.
was there more?
No, I just wanted to thank you and wrap up for you. That was all I was doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. We'll be seeing you later today.
Yes.
Any further staff comments?
Mr. Packinger.
Mr. Packinger.
Good morning. I have a small report on the Wagon Trail project. On Monday, August 2nd, I sent to you an email with some milestones outlining what's coming up ahead with the project. Right now, we're working on the construction management contract. Construction management is related to the inspection work that we have to do during construction. Our resident engineers, testing, and so forth. So the contract went through interviews, we reviewed proposals, there's a consultant that is selected. All of that work is now submitted to the Caltrans Office of Audits and Investigations. They will take maybe about 30 days to review all the documentation, which includes disadvantaged business enterprise documents and so forth. Once that's done, I will bring that contract to the Board of Supervisors for approval. That's expected to be happening around the 28th of September. We're also working on the invitation to bid. That's supposed to be released this coming Monday. So the contractors will be looking at the plans, the specifications, getting the pencils sharpened, and preparing their bids. Bids will be due to this office on the 23rd of September. Once we review the documents and prepare the contract documents, get them all signed, we expect to be at the Board of Supervisors for contract approval on November 9th. So things are moving forward. Okay, any questions?
It doesn't look like there's any questions at this time, Mr. Packinger. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will continue to update the milestone schedule as we get closer to dates and events and these things are refined. Thank you very much.
Please and thank you. Any further staff comments?
There are none.
With that, we'll move on to general public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard. Public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Do we have anybody online?
I do not have anybody online.
With that, we'll give it a second. All right, second's up. So with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion. Any board members like to pull any items? Any staff members who would like to pull any items?
I do not have any staff members.
Public?
There's no public either.
Okay, at this time, I think we'll make it clear that Mr. Garamendi intends to abstain from item 24. And then we'll vote on the entirety of the rest as the board. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli.
Second.
A second by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board, except for item 24, which is a 4-0-1 abstention. With that, we'll move on to a 10-minute break. We are back with the Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 regular Board of Supervisors meeting. Item 25, action item, administrative office, authorize the county administrative officer or designee to sign the Treasury's acceptance award terms, authorize the county administrative officer or designee to sign the assurances of compliance with civil rights requirements, and 3, authorize the county administrative officer or designee to apply for funding through the Treasury submission portal. Ms. Cielo.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am delighted to bring this item to you. What is before you is simply the request for authorization to submit the request to the federal government to receive approximately $8.9 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding. The focus of the conversation today is not to get into the nitty-gritty of how we might, and your board might determine to allocate those funds, which will come in 2 installments. The first installment of 50% we anticipate receiving quickly, and then the second installment will come approximately 1 year later. So the types of allowable expenditures support public health expenditures, address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, replace lost public sector revenue, provide premium pay for essential workers, and investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So you may be aware that one of our neighboring counties is actively in the process of having discussions at the board level and has received board direction related to this funding. I'm recommending for our county, we are differently situated in as much as Tuolumne believes that they have and has done the analysis lost revenue. And so that frees up their ability to determine how to allocate those funds for 2 reasons. One, we have done a preliminary evaluation of whether we believe we have lost revenue, and that is not the case here, which means we will be significantly more constrained in terms of how we might be able to spend these funds when we receive them. And for the reason that I think it's really important to keep the discussion focused on one-time funds, one-time expenditures. So I think it's important to take outside of the annual budget process for that reason. And so we anticipate bringing back recommendations to your board likely in October, one of which will be to put some of those funds in a special revenue fund to see whether we experience lost revenues in the next 1, 2, 3 calendar years. So with that, thank you very much, Mia O'Connell, for joining us. As you know, our federal advocate, in case you have questions for me or for her. And welcome. Good morning, Mia.
meetings. Hi, how is everyone?
Good to see you, Ms. McConnell.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for your support of our work together. I really appreciate that. Interesting time here in Washington as always. As Krista has laid out, Federal Register guidance on the American Rescue Plan has come out from Treasury, but that is interim, final rule at this point. Comments are still coming in. So that gives us a little bit of time to actually look and analyze the eligible categories that we'll be looking to spend funds on once we receive them, if you decide to go forward, and I hope you do. The guidelines are very detailed and nuanced, and it is, I think, very much incumbent upon us to spend some time to analyze it and make some good decisions, because there's different levels and different categories. For example, while low income and affordable housing appears to be an eligible category, it's really only an eligible category if you are in a qualified census tract, in other words, for low-income individuals. So there's lots of different nuances here that we want to spend some time on, because this is a situation where we need to be thoughtful as we go forward and encumber funds if it is determined that those funds were used on an ineligible category. Of course, well, those funds would be recouped and we would have to repay. So I think it's prudent for us, especially in light of the earlier report we heard on what's going on in the county on COVID, to spend the time to look and analyze and make some good decisions and recommendations for the board to consider about how we would use those funds. So with that, I'll turn it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Any board questions? Seems that there are none at this time. Do you have anything further, Ms. Yeo? With that, we'll move to public comments.
I do have one public comment. You can go ahead and make your public comment now.
I'm ready to speak.
We're here.
Now you be ready to listen, because I'm ready to speak now. I have absolutely no faith in you to do a great job here. History's proven that mistakes will be made. It's just lack of experience and lack of ability. But that's okay. We all make mistakes. Most important thing you can do here is bring everybody to the table. Make sure you listen to not only your constituents, but other people's constituents as well. Make sure that you bring the utility districts, the other public safety districts to the table. And make sure you listen to what they have to say. There's nothing that is more important than that. You can be an imbecile, but you can get away with it if you listen to the people. So, with that, I have a lot more to say to you folks, but I'm not gonna talk to you about it, because I have other things to think about that are more important right now. So, goodbye.
Further public comment.
There is no further public comment online.
Any audience public comment? We're still doing public comment. I gave the board opportunity. We can bring it back to the board when I'm done. Thank you. Okay, with that, Ms. Callaway.
I know the details have yet to be worked out. Is there a mechanism for us to be able to determine whether something can be approved or not? For example, part of it was supporting a vital public services, not defined, if there's a loss of revenue, public revenue. If we've had no loss of public revenue, we cannot use the funds to support public services. I mean, these are finite things, so as we go through this process, where will be the fail-safe mechanism? Where will be the interpretation of what we can or cannot do?
So those are recommendations that's what we'll be working on over the course of the next 2 months, so that we can bring those back for discussion in October. And there's two different types of lost revenue here. As you note, the public sector revenue. So literally, the restaurant down the street that was closed for 2 months, right? Or whatever the case may be. And then there's also our countywide revenue. And our analysis of the countywide revenue to date is that we have not experienced revenue losses that would justify being able to use that particular mechanism to then go into making recommendations for things like pay-go construction. If we are able to do that, and we are going to continue to look at that, unfortunately, I don't think that finding is going to change. If it were, our board would have substantially more freedom in terms of how to allocate those funds.
So Mia talked about housing only if a qualified census tract, but some census tracts will have low income, middle or higher income within a given census tract. So does that mean it has to be one size fits all, or that we could look at it as a population set within that census tract?
Again, things that we'll be doing a deeper dive on over the course of the next couple of months. I don't know the answer to that question right now. The guidance is still coming out. We have some FAQs and some guidance, but we don't really know what's going to change. Not sure if anything substantially will change, but it certainly may, because I imagine that this conversation and the concerns that I'm sharing with you now apply to not just Calaveras County, and I expect that the Department of Finance has received many comments related to allowable uses. And so we are hoping that additional guidance comes out that will make it easier for us to allocate these funds.
Okay, thank you.
Further board questions? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway.
Second.
A second by Mr. Toffenelli. All of those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 26, action item. Oh yes, authorize the board chair to execute a letter of support to the California Fire Safe Council for the application of the 2021 County Coordinators Grant by the Office of Emergency Services.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is John Osborne, your Director of Emergency Services. My recommendation this morning is that you authorize yourself to execute a letter of support to the California Fire Safe Council for the application of the 2021 County Coordinators Grant by this office. The County Coordinators Grant is a grant that the Fire Safe Council recently announced, and its purpose is to help coordinate and prioritize the various fuel mitigation plans and projects across the county. And so we are very interested in leading that mitigation effort. We have spoken with the project manager for the local Fire Safe Council, Chief Fullerton, who has expressed an interest to work with us. This grant opportunity gives us the chance to participate in monthly check-in meetings, to identify, summarize, and report on local groups, track and monitor collective efforts, and submit our quarterly programmatic and fiscal reports each quarter. Our hope with this grant is that we will hire a limited term administrative analyst to work here in the OES office. That is an acceptable use and actually a suggested use from the California Fire Safe Council. And that we will move, if we are successful in the grant, we would move forward with that in about October. Barring that, any questions that I may answer for the...
Any questions for the board members? Public comment?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board.
I have one question.
Ms. Fullendorf.
Other than the specs of the contract, since it's technically one-time funding over the course of X amount of months, during that time period, will there be internal progress tracking in order to support this in the future? So we as a board can know what the result of, what the successes of this are.
Yes, those report outs could certainly be made available to the board, and it's actually a good idea that if we reported back to the Fire Safe Council, that you guys may want to hear that report out as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. Any further board questions? Would that all entertain a motion? I already did with, right. Mr. Toff, or Mr. Garamendi?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
A second by Mr. Toffanelli. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Please, don't forget about those report outs. We like to see the successes.
Yes, sir, will do.
Item 27, resolution, Division of Cannabis Control. Adopt a resolution delegating authority to the Office of the Administrative Hearing Officer to hear cannabis tax appeals. Mr. Whalen, good to see you.
Good morning, Chairman Stopper, members of the Board of Supervisors. This is an item before you to amend the tax appeal process. It's currently a two-step process. By way of background, when Measure G was approved in the general election on November 3rd, it had appeal procedures. It's a two-step process that involves an informal hearing before the tax collector in the first place, and then it gives a right to appeal to someone who disagrees with a tax penalty or interest within 15 days of the tax collector's decision. That final step of the appeal process would ordinarily be before the Board of Supervisors. That's the way that Measure G and Chapter 3.56 are set up currently. However, this item proposes changing that last hearing from the Board of Supervisors to the Office of the County Hearing Officer. And we think that there's a couple of benefits with this, one being alleviating the burden on the Board of Supervisors to hear the appeals. Secondly, being that the hearing officer is uniquely situated to adopt procedures that are tailored to these hearings, including virtually anything, the calling of witnesses, setting schedules, things like that. It may also give a little more flexibility in when the dates are set for these hearings, so there's some benefits to that. It's my understanding that the tax collector has expressed support for this, and that it was our process under Measure C. From my personal experience with appeals from application denials, the Office of the Hearing Officer has worked pretty well for us. It's a process that we're very familiar with, and for that reason, we've proposed this today, and both the tax collector and myself recommend that the board adopt this procedure. We've included a resolution that would delegate this authority Chapter 3.56, 180C expressly gives the Board of Supervisors the ability to change the process as proposed, and again, it's our recommendation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board members, Mr. Toffenelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Good. Good morning.
How many appeals have we had since Measure D's been approved?
There are 3 pending right now. They're in a preliminary stage. They are in the process of being scheduled for the tax collector in that informal hearing.
Well, there's only been 3. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that one of those is a appeal of penalties, and the other 2 have to do with canopy size, just as a little more detail.
Any further board questions? Public comment?
There is no public comment.
I'll bring it back to the board. If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So move this item delegating authority to Office of Administrator for a hearing officer.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Passes on a 4-1 vote of the board. Thank you, Mr. Whalen.
Thank you.
Item 28, resolution, planning. Conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution denying Bill French's appeal of the July 8th, 2021 action by the Planning Commission, which upheld the Planning Department's determination that 2005-082 tentative parcel map expired April 17th, 2017, and is ineligible for recordation as a final map. I will open the public hearing. With that, I'll let planning open. And I assume you're Mr. French?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we'll give you an opportunity once planning makes their case.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Miss Gina.
Gina Cathan, County Planning. You have before you today an appeal of a Planning Commission action which denied the appeal made by Mr. Bill French that his tentative parcel map is still alive and has not otherwise expired. Tentative parcel map 2005-82 was approved on April 17th, 2008, initially for 36 months, setting the map to expire April 17th, 2011. Due to the downturn of the economy beginning in July of 2008, the state adopted statute granting extensions to approved maps meeting certain criteria. The applicant's map actually qualified for 6 years of automatic extensions, extending the map out to April 17th, 2017. In his appeal, the applicant cited 2 statutes, Government Code 452.11 and .13, claiming an additional 3 years of extension of time on the maps. But these statutes are not applicable as the map had to have been approved at the time these sections were added, which was back in 1993 and 1996. The Subdivision Map Act and Title 17 both allow up to 6 years of discretionary extensions of time upon request, for which the applicant did not apply for. In a letter to the applicant dated February 15th, 2011, staff notified the applicant that there was no evidence that he had applied for an extension of time and noted the April 17th, 2011 expiration of the map. This letter also noted that there was recently adopted statute extending the expiration of approved maps, and we recommended that he seek confirmation with a licensed land surveyor. Then on August 10th, 2021, the applicant submitted a parcel map to the county surveyor. Upon my review of that map and the applicant's and the appropriate file, I determined that the conditions of the tentative map had not been met, but more importantly, the tentative parcel map had actually expired. The applicant filed an appeal of the planning staff's determination claiming that the map had not expired due to a stay of time resulting from litigation and a development moratorium. Attempting to provide evidence, the applicant submitted various court documents and that just did not substantiate his claim. The Subdivision Map Act and Title 16 both grant additional time up to 5 years if there is litigation challenging the approval or conditional approval of a tentative parcel map. The applicant would have had to had a request in writing to the planning director that the planning commission approve a stay of time. There is no evidence that the litigation challenged the conditional approval of the map, and no evidence of written request or approval of such stay. The second part of his appeal was in regard to a development moratorium. The applicant did not mention a specific moratorium, so we had to do a little research to try to figure out exactly, if there was a moratorium in place that might have had an effect on his map. CCWD, or Calaveras County Water District, does provide both sewer and water to the project. I confirmed with CCWD that there was no moratorium in this area of the county that would have had an effect on his map. In fact, CCWD had concept approval of the project for wastewater and water services, and CCWD drafted a facilities agreement in January of 2009. In March of 2009, the applicant informed CCWD that he was not ready to proceed with this project, and the agreement was never signed. I thought perhaps maybe the applicant had mistook the 2007 ordinance and policy resolution that was in place during the time of the general plan update as a moratorium on development. And I prepared an explanation in your staff report, but he acknowledged during the Planning Commission hearing that he understood that neither one of those had an effect on his map, and they were not, in fact, they were not an actual development moratorium. So I don't see any further, any reason to go on with further details regarding that matter. Staff continues to assert that there is just no evidence to support the applicant's claim and declares this map expired. On July 8th, the Planning Commission took into consideration all of the information provided to them in writing and in addition to testimony given at the public hearing. On a vote of 4-1 with Commissioner Henderson absent, the Planning Commission denied the applicant's appeal, upholding staff's determination that the map is in fact expired and not eligible for recordation. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan. Mr. French now? Mr. French?
Yes. I have a packet here for each of the...
Thank you, sir.
Your 6. Well, as Gina has just stated, the reason I'm here is to prove that the map is still valid, and that through the extensions, it's valid through 2022. And the basis for that is when the map was approved, it was conditionally approved on April 17, 2008. And I applied the government code extensions, the extension both of the discretionary and the mandatory. I couldn't think of the word. So anyway, she already went through the rest of this. The planning department issued a letter to the planning commission, and the planning commission went on those recommendations, and the things that was brought up is actually not accurate. I have went to the government codes. I've went to the development moratoriums, and I will go through each of those if permitted. So, and the codes that I'm referring to on the second page is generally those statutes are not retroactive. They become effective as of the effective dates of the legislation. And I wanted to go to the letter that was submitted, and that would be about the fifth letter from Gina to the Plan Commission. And each of those, I have numbered them. The first one that is inaccurate is that Government Code 66463.5 is a statute granting the initial 36 months. I would like to go to Exhibit 1A. This is to the Planning Commission resolution that the map. This is not a final map. This is a final map is not required for a lot split. This is a lot split. It's not a subdivision. There's different rules for the subdivision and the lot split. So, but it says that I've got it in box here that the tentative parcel map shall expire April the 17th, 2011. So that is a discretionary extension. The others are the mandatory extensions, and I have listed those. On page number 2, we received a three years, and the AB 333 is on the letter. It stated that that was to amend section 60. That was I'm sorry. It was the one that was granting some time, and AB 333 was to amend section 66-452. No, I'm sorry. It was to amend 66. But I'd like to refer you to Exhibit 2 at the top. Assembly Bill 333 is to amend Section 65-961 and to add Section 66-452.22. That became effective July the 13th, 2009. So, it's just, the letter, going back to the letter, says 3 sections granted by additional 6 years. That they're referring to it was granted by Section 66-452.11, which is an error. Go to Exhibit 3. On Exhibit 3, if a map expired prior to July the 15th, 2009, if it had not expired, it would be extended by 24 months. And this was not allowed, but because down at the bottom, it gives you a date. You go to the next page, and you'll see that it's within the date it became effective, January the 1st, 2010. So it was in effect during the period of time that the map was in 2013. I didn't claim 2013. There was some confusion on that. It was replaced by Section 14, and that section was repealed and reset by Section 19. But I didn't claim that. It goes on to say that this Section 211, Section 66-452.11 had expired. And I want to go to Exhibit 5. This statute reads that has not expired when this map became effective will be extended by 24 months. And then at the bottom it says that effective date was September the 12th, 1993, and that was amended. And you go to the next page, which is also labeled Exhibit 5, and you'll see that that was became effective July the 15th, 2008. Then it goes on to say that Exhibit 66-452.6 is if there was outside improvements. That doesn't say that at all. There's the first sentence in 66-452.6 is the expirations of approval and so on and so forth. A1, that gives another extension of 24 months. It goes down to where it says additional 12 months, there's a period there. That is a sentence that is different from the one that is saying that there has to be off-site improvements. That is valid, that there's 24 months and a possibility of additional 12 months by discretionary approval. So there is 24 months. There's other exhibits, and each one of those exhibits will substantiate exactly what I have said, that the map has approvals. On the second page, the first thing that I have is 3 years extending the map until 2011. After that, let me back up just a minute. I want to address the moratoriums. That is an important factor. That moratorium is misunderstood. Okay, on Exhibit 8, the moratorium, a development moratorium is considered to exist whenever a tentative map condition is imposed. That condition was imposed, it was a road ordinance, which I came before the Planning Commission and appeal that. It was they were claiming that there was a 50-foot easement, a fee simple, along Hogan Dam Road that belonged to them. They denied my appeal. We went to court here in Calaveras County, and the court dismissed that requirement. After they researched it, Hogan Dam Road, where this property is a 30-foot easement. And we had a court date with the city of Stockton. They were claiming something there. That was prior to this, but they showed that there was that the property line was to the center line of Hogan Dam Road, and that's the way it stands today. That's where the property line goes, is to the center of Hogan Dam Road. So whenever they claimed that there was a 50-foot fee simple title to that property, that was in error. This goes to show that it's not after the approval, it's not for the approval of the map. It's a condition that is preventing you from using your property to its fullest utility. As it goes on to say, it goes on to say that if a bill of moratorium is caused by a public agency, and that would be whenever they opposed the condition, whenever they enforced the condition that there was a 50-foot fee there was no 50-foot fee there. That was the moratorium. The second, that was litigation. I just said this. I didn't give the exact dates or anything, but litigation commenced with the Planning Commission April the 28th. That's on page 3 of 2008. And it was denied the 27th. Okay, there was, the court case was eminent domain because they were claiming 50-foot fee simple title. That commenced April 7th, 2011, and it was dismissed with dropping that claim on August the 16th, 2011. That development moratorium lasted for 4 months, 9 days, and that's Exhibit 10. That is from, at the top, it shows you eminent domain. It gives you the dates of the proceedings. And it gives you the determination. Okay. And that lasted for 1 year and 3 months. And then immediately after that, Calaveras County Water District started litigation of condemnation by eminent domain. That started September the 11th, 2012, and it was concluded. It was transferred at my request from Calaveras County Court to neutral court, which was in Stockton, San Joaquin County. And it was concluded February the 17th, 2014, 1 year and 5 months. That gives a total of development moratoriums of 3 years and 1 month. So that is, and anytime there's a development moratorium, the time doesn't continue to run. It actually, I have 3 years at the beginning. I've got 10 years extensions, and I got 3 years and 1 month of building moratoriums added on to the 2011. That's from 2011. So that brings me up to 2022. I got a summation there. If anyone cares to look at it, it covers just what I just mentioned. On the back here, I have just substantiate what I've just said. After Exhibit 10, I've got the road, the property and the road, which was the concern of the 50-foot fee simple title. And the places that I marked off, this map is 2-146, and it was the current date on it was 1975. It shows at both ends of the property, the subject property, as the road being 30-foot total, 15-foot to each center line. And then on the development moratorium for the Water District, it shows the condemnation that they went through. and where it stopped my use of my property because it was unsure as to what the outcome of this lawsuit. As it came out, they took one point some acres. They 7.30 and .33355, just a little bit over 1 acre. But that is the 3 areas that was the development moratorium. It doesn't have to be imposed by, it's imposed by the action of different facilities. And not only is it, it's it can be imposed by a development moratorium is considered to exist whenever a tentative map condition imposed by the local agency cannot be satisfied because of the agency's failure to take some action necessary to complete the condition. That's whenever the litigation started. It's the Water District, the Planning Commission, they could establish building moratoriums as well as the Board of Supervisors. That completes my statement. That is backed up completely by government codes. It's not speculation. It's the law. Whenever I went before the Planning Commission, they said that they had to apply by the law. I agree. You got to apply by the law, comply by the law. That's exactly what I did here. I've complied by the law. The map should be recorded. It's never became invalid. It's valid as of today, and I request that it be that I be allowed to record the map and use my property as guaranteed by the state of California and by the Constitution of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. French. Do we have response from staff?
Yes. So Mr. French is referring to 66452.6 as being an additional 36 months. That is the statute that actually applied the initial 36 months to the approval of the map. So that is not in addition to. That is the statute that actually granted the approval of 36 months. In respect to AB 333, we did apply that. That map did qualify for 24 months in addition to AB 208 and AB 116. Those 3 assembly bills totaled the additional 6 years, and those were granted automatically. Did not have to apply for them, did not have to make a request. Simply, if the map met the criteria, which we found that they did, they simply were granted the additional time. So we're not arguing that the map did not qualify, or we did not apply 333, 208, or 116. All 3 of those extensions were granted. That's where the additional 6 years came in at. And once again, 6645213 and 11 do not apply. Those were ineffective. Those were statutes that were in effect back in 1993 and 96. And I'm not exactly sure whether Mr. French is claiming that those do apply at this time. But just for clarification, those do not apply to this map. So those extensions of the additional 3 years do not apply. Again, There were up to 6 years of discretionary extensions that he could have applied for and did not. In respect to the moratorium, simply filing a lawsuit doesn't put a moratorium in effect. There are statutes within government code and local code that do allow for additional time in respect to litigation, but that is very specific in that it is litigation where there is a challenge of the condition of the map, and I'm just not seeing that. But in addition to that, there was a process that he did not follow. So even if you found that the litigation was in fact concerning the challenging of a condition of the approved map, he didn't follow the process in which to get the granted stay of time. So like I said, government code and Title 16 clearly put forth a procedure that he did not follow. And in terms of a moratorium, there was not a moratorium in place for any of the anything that would have affected that map. So confirmation with CCWD indicates that there was no adopted moratorium in place. Development moratoriums were not imposed by the county at that time, and there's not an automatic assumption of a moratorium as he's implying in government code. So again, we assert that this map is expired as of April 17th, 2017, and not eligible to be recorded.
Thank you, Ms. Catherine. I'm going to give you an opportunity, Mr. French, to respond again to what's been brought up here, but I'm going to give a public comment an opportunity at this time.
Okay.
Public comment.
I have no public comment.
Okay. With that, the appellant, Mr. French, you may respond to what Ms. Catherine just discussed.
I couldn't understand each one of the codes that she was referring to, but I will summarize as to what the government codes are and what their dates are. And in reference to the 3-year extension, it wasn't an extension, it was a discretionary, well, it wasn't, when it was approved, whenever the map was approved. As you can see on that exhibit, Exhibit 1A, it was approved at the time of, it was given at the time of the map, when the map was approved. It was shall expire in 2011. This goes back to this. It was approved prior to any of the dates that we're talking about. The map was approved and the extensions were approved on April the 17th of 2011. 2008. It brought it to 2011. That was prior to any of these extensions. So the extensions start with at 2011. It doesn't start at 2008. And whenever the AB 333 was to amend, it had nothing to do with what we're speaking of now. It was to amend section 65961, which has to do with things other than the extensions, and it added section 66452.22. Okay, as I mentioned, the Assembly Bill 333 extended by 24 months. Okay, that brought us to 5 years. Okay. Code 66452.22A extended it by another 24 months. We can go to that, it's Exhibit 3, and see what the effective dates was. And the map was it was effective at that time. It hadn't expired. And so if you want to, we can go to that, the section 222, that's Exhibit 4. The expiration date is on the second page of that. Down, the effective date is July the 15th, 2008. That's that's your .22A. Government Code 66452.6A1, it extended it by 36, well, it was 24 plus a discretionary 12 months. So we'll just say 2, so that brings it to 7. Here's 211, 66452.11A, extended another 24 months. That brings you to 9. And that is Exhibit 5. On the second, down at the bottom, it says effective date September the 13th, 1993. But go to the revisions on the next page. It tells you 66452.11 is effective July the 15th, 2008. There, again, that is during the period of time that the map was valid. Okay. Section 66452.23A extended another 2 years. That's 11. That's Exhibit 6. Okay, that extended 24 months. That's 11. That's 13. The next page, 24, is extended another 24 months. So that's 15 years of extensions. You're only allowed 10 years of mandatory, 3 years of discretionary, and up to 5 years of development moratoriums. So as you can see from the 11, you add the 10 mandatory to the map being approved through the 11th, 2011, that's 2021. Without any mandatory, without development moratorium. And there's an error you can see by reading the extent of the development moratorium, that it's not what Gina is saying is being misinterpreted. It's the building development moratorium is not imposed. It's imposed by an action that prevents a person from using the property as was intended. So I believe that pretty well covers anything that if you go by the government code of the state of California, then the map is valid through 2022, April the 17th.
Anything further, Mr. French?
No.
Thank you. Board questions. Mr. Toffanelli. It's in your district, I believe. It's that side of the road.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions here. Do we know, were we aware of anything, and this is to Julie or Gina, he's claiming here an eminent domain case was filed in Calaveras County Superior Court in August of 2011. That doesn't affect this map as a moratorium at all?
Supervisor Toffanelli, the eminent domain case, he was providing as an example of a litigation stay, and we have no evidence that that case met the requirements for the type of litigation that can be stayed, that can stay the deadline. It would have had to have been litigation against the county for approving the map. And there's no evidence that it was that type of litigation. And what's more, it's not an automatic thing. If the litigation was against the county about the approval of the map, he would have had to have applied to the county for an extension of time based on the pending litigation that would have involved him and the county. And that also didn't happen. I am not aware of anything in the case itself that could have met the legal requirements for a moratorium under the Subdivision Map Act of a type that would extend the deadline for a map. The moratorium would have had to have been some, as I understand it, is some legislative or court-ordered prohibition on development that is countywide that would have affected his map. And Ms. Cathan looked to see whether there were any moratoriums in place that would have affected his map. Not some, and that's different than just a lawsuit in which he thinks something is bothering his development. That's not a moratorium for purposes of the MAP Act. That would be some sort of legislative determination, or perhaps if we lost a general plan lawsuit and were ordered to not have any development countywide, that's the type of thing that could allow for a moratorium-based extension. And we just haven't seen any evidence that would lead us to believe that there was any resolution in any of his lawsuits that would rise to that level. We just haven't seen that evidence. So
there's nothing on record that he applied to the county for a delay because of this lawsuit that he's claiming here stopped him. He could have moved forward even during this time of this lawsuit is going on and recorded his map without any problem.
No, there's nothing in the record. In addition, it goes well beyond just simply a written request. It actually has to go before the Planning Commission, and so we would have obviously some very hard evidence of such a public hearing, and for which we have nothing. He's not even provided me with any indication that that was even done.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Garamendi.
Thank you. I just have a question. On the resolution included in this packet from May 27th, that was given to the board, to the Planning Commission, correct? So I'm not bringing up new information, am I? I don't want to ask a question unless it was asked.
Good point.
The resolution that was prepared for you, or the attack?
This packet that Mr. French gave us.
Staff doesn't have the packet.
No, I have no
You don't
idea.
know what it is. In the, in the planning commission hearing, was there discussion of the Board of Supervisors resolution of May 27, 2008, where Mr. French appealed against this tentative map?
It's, Gina, if it's helpful, this is Board Resolution 08-121.
If it wasn't brought up, then I'll just withdraw my question.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't follow. You have to repeat yourself.
Okay. I'm sorry, Gina. I don't want to, I'm just asking, in this packet that Mr. French gave us, he's got a resolution from May 27, 2008, where he's appealing where the board is denying the appeal of Billy and Anita French of the Planning Commission decision approving the tentative parcel map.
That was the staff recommendation, but in the end, it went the other way, I believe.
Well,
Foregoing resolution was duly passed.
Are you saying that he provided the resolution? Or are you asking me about the resolution I provided to the commission?
No, Gina, in Mr. French's packet that he just presented to the board today.
Which I don't have a copy of, so I'm sorry.
Okay, so then that wasn't included, then I withdraw my question.
I have no idea what you're talking about because I don't have that packet of information. I've never seen it before.
Okay, I think it would be a bad idea to introduce new information, so I withdraw my question.
And just for the board, I mean, if there's something in front of you from whatever Mr. French submitted that would lead you to want to know more about it or change your mind about how you were thinking of ruling, you could always kick it back to the Planning Commission to directing them to consider additional information. But if it doesn't affect your decision or doesn't matter to you, then it's not significant and we don't have to do that.
So, in addition, everything in your packet that I provided to you was presented to the Planning Commission.
Okay, I don't think my question is germane to this case.
Okay.
Mr. Toffenelli?
Yeah, that brings up a good question. Since you don't have a copy of this, and Julie doesn't have a copy of this, there could be information in here that was not presented to the Planning Commission, and to go through our packet here, and when I did, there seems to be information in here that was not presented to the Planning Commission. So for us to make a judgment based on any of that information, I think you're correct. We should go back to the Planning Commission if we plan on, or we should set it aside and deal with what we have in front of us as far as what was provided in our packet that was provided to the Planning Commission.
And Supervisor Toffenelli, I did review the packet that was provided today by Mr. French and also what was provided to the Planning Commission, and while it is packaged differently, I don't believe there are new arguments or evidence that have been introduced today.
Well, the resolution that Jack spoke about is in it.
It is.
It's almost the first exhibit here.
It's just a board resolution from 2008, I believe, denying a modification to the tentative parcel map.
Right.
I don't believe it has an effect.
Which is really irrelevant.
I would agree.
What wasn't provided, though, was this section that we have here.
Again, I think this is packaged differently, but the arguments and evidence that are being presented today are not substantively different from what the Planning Commission considered.
All right. Thank you.
May I speak?
One moment, French, please. Any further board comments? Ms. Callaway?
On the AB 333-208, et cetera, 116, for the 6 years to be granted, Mr. French would have had to apply for that. Is that correct?
The discretionary extension, so see if I can further explain this. The MAP Act allows you to, so let's just assume that none of these other statutes ever existed. 3 333-208-116 are no longer. They didn't apply, never adopted. The MAP Act and Title 16 allow an applicant to apply for up to 6 years of extensions of time. And when we refer to those as discretionary, that implies that in our case, the Planning Commission has the discretion to approve or deny those requests. So those extensions were never applied for. He did not submit an application with a fee prior to the expiration of the MAP requesting an extension pursuant to that government code section of his MAP. And we see those all the time. Automatically applied to his MAP through the state of California were Assembly Bill 333, 208, and 116. And I believe that I further clarified those in a chart on page 4 of the staff report. And I made reference to the government code sections that they are actually codified in. So there wasn't any confusion as to, 333 being like something separate than the government code section that Mr. French kept referring to, 6645222. So all three of those were automatically applied to this MAP, meeting the criteria. So in other words, the MAP had to be approved by the date that the statute was effective, and there was a reference to the end. So if the MAP had not expired prior to a certain date that was referenced in the statute, then the MAP qualified for the amount of time that was granted through that statute. So we're saying that the MAP qualified for up to 6 years of those automatic extensions for which he did not have to apply for. The state of California says, you meet this criteria, you automatically get those extensions. That was 6 years.
One more question. My understanding and reading is that the court case regarded really a boundary line adjustment, not a moratorium?
No, the litigation had nothing to do specifically with a development moratorium. He had other things that were going on. He's referred to the Hogan Dam Road. He had one with CCWD, but none of which were specific to the approval of his tentative map.
Okay. That's what I understand. Thank you.
Any further board questions? Mr. French, I'll give you one more opportunity to reply.
Okay, there was no need to apply for additional time extensions because the mandatory extensions gave me 13 years. There was no time during the MAP, the valid MAP that required that. I already had the time. I was given 3 years at approval of the MAP. I was given 10 years of mandatory extensions by the government code. So there was none that I needed to apply for. And the development moratorium, that doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be upon approval of the MAP. That is a condition that prevents you from going ahead with your MAP. It's not approval of the MAP, it's by using the property as you intended it to be used.
Thank you, Mr. French. With that, I'll be closing the public hearing. We called for it, no one replied at a second round. I mean, I can call for it again. No one? But yeah, second round's generally part of it unless no one commented the first time. Okay. So I'll bring it back to the board again, and we'll close the public hearing. And any deliberation or motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to go with what our lawyer and our staff has presented to us and by what the Planning Commission has recommended. So I will move this item to deny Mr. French's appeal of the action of the Planning Commission.
I'll second the motion.
A motion by Mr. Toffenelli, a second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. With that, I'll move on to supervisors' announcements. In compliance with Government Code 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on any meetings attended at the expense of the local agency and may make other announcements or report out. Ms. Fullendorf.
I will be attending the third series of the new supervisor orientation or training conference in Sacramento this week.
With CSAC.
Okay.
It's enjoyable. I had a good time at those. Mr. Toffenelli.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Callaway.
At the Area 12 Agency on Aging meeting that we just had, there's discussion at the state level of having the agencies become part of the county versus a separate agency. This has, for the rural counties, this would have a significant impact. I've been in touch with Corey Allen, who's been in touch with the Health and Human Services Director in Tuolumne, and the California Welfare Directors Association is somewhat pushing this. We are not, we've gone through this before the board. We would probably lose a lot of services for our seniors if the respective counties had to absorb Area 12 agency services. So I'll keep you informed as we move forward. And as I understand it from Ms. Allen, the rural counties are definitely opposed to this system. And then this Saturday, I'll be having a community meeting. Public Works will be there on the Blagan Road Bridge Replacement Project. It's finally going to construction. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. Mr. Garamendi.
Nothing required to be reported.
I have one thing to report. It was in Mr. Toffenelli's district on Double Springs Road. The Fish and Wildlife Commission, with the lead of Mary Ann Garamendi, installed a memorial sign for Michael DeMasters. And we just want to thank them for the tribute they made to a great person's life in our community.
I have a Double Springs Road comment.
Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh.
Wait a minute. Well, I got to get to it.
Is this something that we can bring before the board at a later date?
Yes.
Okay, then.
They've just installed rumble strips on Double Springs Road, and the only reason I bring it up is there's talk in the Murphy's area of putting speed bumps in. And speed bumps really are not effective, so Scott Anderson took me to Double Springs Road to see the rumble strips. So just in case y'all want to know what rumble strips look like, take a ride on Double Springs Road.
You didn't go over the rumble strips?
I
You
did.
just looked at them?
I did both.
Oh, okay.
I noticed those also. All right, with that, we'll call it a day.